Welcome to the Mystic Media channel. I'm your host, Ravina Rastavan, aka the Realist Astrologer. And I am doing a video on Nas today because Kelis has recently spilled some tea about her marriage to Nas. So first I'm going to read a little bit from this article on Billboard.com about this interview that she gave recently. So it states, after remaining mum on her failed marriage to Nas since their 2009 divorce, in a new interview with Hollywood Unlocked, Kelis accuses the Illmatic MC of being physically and mentally abusive during their 5-year marriage. It was really dark. There was a lot of drinking. There was a lot of mental and physical abuse, Kelis reveals in a newly released interview. I probably would have stayed longer had I not been pregnant, because I really did love him and because we were married. We weren't dating, we were married, like this was my person. Kelis also explains why she decided to speak out now about her past relationship as opposed to when the former hip-hop couple got divorced in 2009. I waited 9 years to say anything. I have never talked about this man ever, she tells Hollywood Unlocked's Jason Lee. The amount of airing out that I could do, and I've chosen not to, our kids will find out. They're finding out now. I've never painted myself as a saint. Did he hit me? Mm-hmm. Did I hit him back? Mm-hmm. Now, one thing about Kelis. Kelis is a hardcore Leo because she has this mean stellium in Leo. So, yeah, she's tough. And she's not the type that's going to take hits like sitting down. She's going to hit back. And I wouldn't even be surprised if she was the one putting her hands on Nas first a lot of the times, because that's how a lot of Leo women can be when they're in a rocky relationship. So, I'm not saying that she deserved it, but I'm saying, it takes two to tango sometimes. So a lot of Leo Virgo relationships can be very rocky because Leo is very dominant and Virgo is volatile. And Virgo got a mouth on them, and Leo likes to be the boss. So there it is right there. But let me get right into Nas's chart. So Nas was born September 14, 1973. And that gives him a birth number of 14, breaks down to 5. That makes him prone to volatility even more than just being a Virgo alone. It can produce very messy relationships, messier breakups. However, it does make him a great communicator. It's good for rapping, writing, makes him rather intelligent, but his mind is prone to too much vacillation. Too much for Virgo to deal with. So basically, he can't shut up when he gets going. And he thinks way too much, analyzes way too much. His life path number is 7, so that deals with his rap career. Also, he got Mercury conjoined to Pluto in Libra. It's in sextile to Neptune and Sag. That deals with his music career, as well as Mercury and Pluto in trine to Jupiter and Aquarius. Also, Venus and Scorpio sextile his Capricorn North Node. That deals with his music career as well. And also, Mercury and Pluto are making a trine to his Cancer South Node, and that deals with him being a good storyteller. So he is one of the best storytellers in hip-hop. And also, this points to his musical background. His father is a jazz musician. Now, about that, his son, Nas's son, representing his father in his chart, is in sesqui square to Mars in Taurus. And that could deal with a father that was all about his music, not really too keen on being a father, or I'll say really involved father, unless music was involved. And it could deal with a father that was rather self-absorbed. Also, Nas's life path of 7 could deal with addiction issues. Kelis did mention the drinking, and also mental illness. Now, Nas's first baby mama, Carmen, did say that Nas is dealing with a mental illness. And also isolation. So stay with me on the isolation piece because that's going to tie into his relationship with Kelis. So Nas' sun is in Virgo. That's the only planet he has in Virgo. And it's in sesqui square to his Mars in Taurus, like I said. And that deals with issues with paying child support. Kelis has talked about that in the interview about how he wasn't paying child support for years. It also deals with issues with possessiveness, jealousy, violent tendencies when he feels threatened, overcompensation for insecurity, and also being partially in his child's life due to selfishness. So with him, because his Mars is in Taurus, if it's not according to his program, he won't cooperate. So that deals with him being very stubborn. Also, his sun is conjoined to the fixed star Denebula, and therein lies a lot of the problem with Nas, because this can make him hypercritical. It does make him very persevering, but also very controlling at the same time. Denebula also deals with lack of an imagination, also having undesirable associates, and that made me think of Jay-Z and that connection he has with him. Also, Denebula is an indicator of mental illness. Also, with Denebula, happiness can easily turn to despair. And Nas always does have this look of despair on his face, and a lot of that does just deal with the fact that he's a Virgo. And also, disease and catastrophes. Now, Nas's moon is in Aries. I don't know what time he was born, so I don't know how close it is to Chiron. But with the time that I have, and the time that I have is 3 p.m., that's just an arbitrary time. That actually puts his moon right next to Chiron, 1 degree apart. And I'm thinking that that might be close to his birth time because of the way Kelis describes him. So that right there could deal with him being abusive towards women, choosing women who are very headstrong, dominant, and women who are fighters, women who will fight him back. Now, again, I don't know his birth time, but if it's around this time, that would make his moon be rather in a tight opposition with Uranus. That could deal with him having problems with women being liberated, him objectifying women, him wanting a woman to be animated according to his will. That can easily lead to separations, divorce, him refusing to cooperate or compromise when it comes to co-parenting. Also, issues with his own mother. His mother could have been cold, not nurturing, maybe even abusive and tyrannical. And his mother may have lacked femininity, and more on that in a minute. Now, his Mercury is conjoined to Pluto in Libra, and again, that deals with his musical talent, his rap game. But it also deals with that constipated look that he always has on his face. And you know what I'm talking about. Also, he could be suspicious for no reason. This is an indicator of bipolar tendencies or borderline personality disorder. Also, it can lead to obsessions, jealousy, envy, vindictiveness, prone to stalking, morbid dark thoughts. Also, it can make him have a very nasty mouth, and he is called Nasty Nas, so that's where that comes from, that Mercury conjoined to Pluto in Libra. And that could deal with him making enemies rather easily. So that does deal with him putting out that song Ether, which was one of the best beef records ever in history. I mean, like, he tore Jay-Z to shreds. I mean, that's one of my favorite Nas songs. Oh my God, Ether. That Ether. Oh my God. Anyway, prone to go on binges. And Kelis in the interview did talk about how he would just drink too much and he just would go too far, goes to extremes, compulsive speech. So all of this is a manifestation of his Mercury conjoined to Pluto and Libra. Now, his Mercury and Pluto are in square to his Cancer South Node and Capricorn North Node, and his Pluto and the nodes are all at the 3rd degree. So herein lies the problem, because it can lead to excessiveness, also make him have a godlike complex. Remember, he was in that Hate Me Now video, and he was nailed to the cross like he was Jesus, so that could point to him having like a godlike complex. Also, he has karmic debt with women, heavy karmic debt, dealing with women, including his mother. So in this lifetime, he really shouldn't be wifing up any women, because it's going to lead to a bunch of problems. And this also deals with him being overly emotional. So he's not in control with his emotions. And also it deals with him engaging in emotional blackmail tactics to get his way. Also, that South Node in Cancer square Mercury and Pluto can deal with him having a wild imagination. So when his woman's not around, he's just thinking of the worst. And also makes him extremely insecure. Now, what makes matters worse is his Saturn is conjoined to his Cancer South Node, and that is at the 3rd degree as well. So this can deal with him having a past life of controlling women. Maybe he was a pimp in a past life, and I do talk about Cancer being the pimp of the zodiac. And it's because Saturn's at the 3rd degree, and the South Node's at the 3rd degree. That could deal with him being in control of a lot of women. Him having a bevy or harem of women that he dominated. Also, this deals with a strong link between women and his profession. So again, it goes back to the pimp theme. Also, he was so much about women in the past like that. In this life, he's actually emulated women to a certain extent with his emotional makeup, and also he has a soft body. Like, Nas has always been thin, but he's never been ripped or cut or anything like that. So he even has like small little man boobs. So he's always had a soft body, and that deals with him having that Cancer South Node conjoined to Saturn. And then also, it reinforces the issue with his father. Like I said, his father being self-absorbed, all into his personal life. Also, his father may have been a womanizer with Saturn being conjoined to the Cancer South Node. And Nas has Saturn quincunx Jupiter in Aquarius. So his father has something to hide. So it could deal with his father just being all into his music and not really being there for Nas in terms of Nas' development. But it can also deal with some things that Nas' father was into that Nas found out later on. And there is that Saturn quincunx Jupiter and Saturn quincunx Neptune. It does form a yod. And yods can deal with where things are going smoothly, things are going fine. You're none the wiser, but then you find out some shit and then everything comes crumbling down or everything falls apart or whatever like that. So there's definitely some issue with Nas's father, which could deal with his personality disorder and his inability to cope with his emotion. I'm wondering if his father was, maybe bi or whatever. Now, his father was a musician. You gotta wonder sometimes about them because they have the strong Neptune influence. And I meant to pull his father's chart to look at that, but maybe that could have been the skeleton in the closet that Nas discovered or whatever like that. And maybe Nas idolized his father at first, and then he found out the truth. So let me just break this down, how this relates to his situation with women. Excuse my cat, he's going crazy right now because he wants to eat, even though it's way too early for him to be eating anything. But anyway, so back to what I was saying. So this yod involving Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter can deal with Nas finding or discovering a secret about his father. But it can also deal with Nas sabotaging a good thing that he has going with a woman due to his fear of losing her to someone else. It's like he's thinking that he's going to destroy the illusion before the woman destroys it. But even if it's the real thing, like Kelis thought it was the real thing, she was saying she really loved him, he will still destroy it believing it's an illusion. So this goes back to deep-seated feelings of inadequacy and also some illusion that his parents was had up that Nas basically discovered, and that basically caused everything to crumble, especially dealing with his father. So that's what I'm thinking. It goes back to his parents living some type of lie, especially his father, sweeping a lot of shit under the rug. So Nas has trust issues, going back to his parents, going back to his early childhood. So also, Saturn is opposed to Icarus, which is an asteroid that could deal with destructiveness brought about by one's own hubris, one being overly confident. So this is more indications of issues with his father. So could this deal with the destruction of his father's fabricated reputation? And this spills over into his relationships with women. So maybe his father built himself up to be this, model father, but then Nas found out something about his father that basically blew all of that out the water. And next thing you know, Nas has trust issues dealing with everybody, but even with women. So a lot of times when it comes to people having issues, you got to go back to their background. Most of the time the answer is in their background, but a lot of times it could deal with their past life. I feel like Nas is dealing with both issues. So again, Saturn in Cancer, quincunx Jupiter in Aquarius, he has a problem with his woman being too liberated and wanting to do her own thing. He goes overboard with attempts to control his woman, and he can't let shit go. So if his woman has done something in the past, he will keep rehashing that same issue. He will not let that situation die. Also, he has Saturn in Cancer, quincunx Neptune in Sagittarius. This echoes his life path number. Wants to keep his woman locked down, abandonment issues, fear of losing his woman. So just think about in his past life, if he was a pimp, All pimps have deep-seated insecurity issues dealing with the relationship they had with their mother, more than likely. And so they always have a fear of their women abandoning them, and that's why they use a heavy hand when dealing with women. That's why they try to subdue women as much as they can, and they will resort to abuse to do that. So all pimps have a fear of losing their women, because if they lose their women, that is their livelihood. So pimps are basically one of the weakest forms of men, because they are nothing without women. So again, fear of losing his woman. Neptune, Sesame Square Moon. Again, I don't know what time he was born, but that definitely fits. So that it could be the same theme. Him wanting to keep his woman locked down, abandonment issues starting with his mother. And also he has Venus in Scorpio squaring Jupiter in Aquarius. Again, he has a problem with his woman being too liberated, especially when she is away from him. And his Juno, which deals with the main problem in your relationships, is at the 11th degree of Sagittarius. That reinforces the aspect of this aspect of Venus square Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, pertaining to women being too free. So it deals with him being in conflict with women, because it's the 11th, and also him being insecure, especially like when Kelis was touring. So he would probably go crazy with wild thoughts about her slobbing some dude's knob backstage, like he's insanely jealous. But he will choose women that will dip out on him. So it's like a vicious cycle. But if a woman dips out on him, it's probably because he pushed that woman away with his dark-sided Virgo tendencies. Also, Venus square Jupiter can deal with heavy child support obligations, because Venus is in Scorpio. And this deals with him not paying child support, because that Jupiter in Aquarius can make him very willful and very rebellious. And also him contesting the amount of child support that has been assessed. Also, Nas's nemesis is in Leo, and it is opposed to Jupiter, and that goes back to what I said about possibly issues with his father and the truth. Him finding out the truth about his father, and the truth could be shocking because Jupiter is in Aquarius. Also, this could deal with him basically blaming his child for his problems, and Virgo fathers can be like that. Like, they could be unreasonable and even blame the child for problems. Now, let's get into Nas and Kelis' Synastry real quick, because I'm approaching 20 minutes here. Okay, so their Synastry looks pretty bad. One of the main reasons is they don't have too many positive aspects between their personal planet. And that is a key indicator right there that the people aren't going to really have a positive relationship, or it's not going to be too much that holds them together. However, what brought them together is that Nas's Capricorn North Node is in trine to Kelis' Sun. So that deals with them meeting each other in the record industry, music industry, and also her enhancing his career, actually, and vice versa. Now, Nas's Mars squares Kelis' Mercury. That's one of the biggest problems. That deals with constant disagreements, verbal battles, berating. She could say shit to him that will get him riled up and cause him to even get violent. And this deals with him trying to wield too much power over her mind. And because his Mars is in Taurus, and I did an Ace of Cups radio show about Taurus being the cult leader of the zodiac, and I strongly believe that. So with his Mars in Taurus, it's like, you got to go along with my program, and if you don't, it's going to be problems. Like, he wanted her to basically just adhere to his dictates. Also, his Pluto is in square to her Mars. This is the classic abuse/domestic violence aspect. It's the breakup to makeup aspect. It's where you could, have this knockdown, drag out fight, but then have this crazy love making session afterwards. Nas's Pluto is in semi-square to Kelis' Moon. Again, like Nas, I don't know what time Kelis was born, but that actually fits. So it seems right, because this deals with Nas being too controlling, trying to control her every move, him displaying stalkerish behavior, being abusive, co-parenting challenges. Basically, this aspect is terrible for cohabitation. Nas's Saturn is possibly in semi-square to Kelis' Moon. That could deal with him trying to control and parent her, also leaving her to parent the child alone. Nas's Saturn conjoined to Kelis' Mars. This is dealing with him punishing her, possibly withholding sex, her having the bruises all over her body, maybe being rough or insensitive during sex, wanting to control her to the point where she lacks individuality, again like a pimp does, and on her like a hawk when she is around other men, suspecting her of wanting other men, trying to be her father, daddy, pimp. His Saturn is in Cancer, I'm telling you. Also, Nas Capricorn, oh, I already talked about that North Node. Nas's Venus is in semi-square to her Neptune. This is him being in bondage to Kelis over money, child support. Also, when they were together, him always suspecting her of keeping secrets. Abandonment issues are reinforced through Kelis. And probably even had issues with her putting on too much makeup and smelling good and dressing all nice. He'd probably be all like, why are you putting on all that makeup for? Who you trying to look good for? That type of thing. And Virgo men are famous for that. Like, Virgo don't want you to be putting on makeup and stuff like that. If they're not going to be right by your side, they get so insecure and they feel so threatened. Also, Nas's sun is in square to Kelis's Neptune. That can make him be like addicted to her, where he goes crazy over her. Also, that points to the abandonment issues really coming to the forefront. Also, him suspecting her, keeping secrets again, and him being in bondage to her due to the child support. And Nas's moon could be opposed to Kelis's Pluto, which I believe that his birth time probably is around that ballpark, because more than likely this aspect is in their synastry. So this could deal with an abusive relationship, especially with living together. Him going batshit crazy over the fact that she had bonds outside the marriage and obligations to others, being under her control due to the child support obligation, but him refusing to co-parent if he can't have her. So that could be like him seeing Kelis as an all or nothing deal. And also this deals with him bringing out the worst in Kelis. So that is my video on Nas and his rocky relationship with Kelis. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is Nas a dark-sided Virgo? I would say yes, he is, because of the factors that I mentioned in his chart. But it seems like he can manage his dark-sided ways, at least for his career. However, in personal relationships, that's where his dark-sided self really comes out. And like I said, I know dark-sided Virgo, and they could be some of the worst. I mean, they could be downright nasty and evil, and they will make you feel like you are living in hell, and they will push you away. Even though they love you to death, if they got issues with their mother, their father, or both parents, which I feel like Nas has, they are not going to be good to anyone in a personal relationship. So that's my take on Nas. Now, if you would like a reading, you could go to my website at rabina.com. Peace and many blessings.